Hello, everybody. We are here today for the Dearborn Real Estate Education Partners webinars, and we're going to get started in about, I'd say about 30 seconds. So if you want to grab a quick coffee, grab it very quickly. If you need a water, Doug, can you hear me okay?
I
And
sure
see
can.
me? All right. So our special guest is in and ready to roll. And so everybody, we got about 15 seconds, and I'll do a quick countdown. And feel free to drop a little note in the chat to make sure your chat works. I'd make sure you turn it on, everyone. And let's say where you're coming from today. I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota. Beautiful day, sunny fall day in Minnesota right now. Go ahead and drop that in. Connecticut, Luis, nice, very good. Horace, Atlanta, beautiful, beautiful. Jamie, Colorado. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started in 5, 4. Hello, everybody. I'm Toby Shifsky. I'm the Vice President of Dearborn Real Estate Education. And today, for our Dearborn partner webinars, we have none other than a local expert, Doug Dishong. Doug, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Toby. Good to be here.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, if you guys don't know, let me introduce who Doug is. So, Doug's kind of a big deal at Kaplan, and so Doug is a senior executive in education technology. He currently serving as executive director of platform solutions and integrations at Kaplan. So, and if you know, there's a lot of businesses at Kaplan, and Doug works across all those businesses, making sure the platforms all work. And so he's built and scaled cross-functional teams that drive institutional transformation, operational excellence, and enterprise delivery across global higher education and K-12 markets. So with leadership roles, Doug has been a busy guy, spanning strategy, sales, operations, and finance. That's kind of like the holy grail of business. And he's done it at firms such as Blackboard and Kaplan. Doug has overseen multi-year change initiatives, retention turnarounds, and revenue strategies across portfolios, exceeding, and this is kind of a nice large number, $500 million. His work blends precision, execution, strategic vision, reshaping how organizations deliver value, support learners, and grow to scale. So this is like everybody's dream. If you could have Doug sitting across your desk every day running your business and telling you how you're going to organize everything and get everything to talk to its all the different parts and pieces and platforms in order to drive a wonderful education experience. Think of the power you would have. He is driven by a deep commitment to expanding educational access and improving learning outcomes at scale. Everybody, this is Doug Dishong. Doug, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Toby.
Absolutely. All right, so let's do this. I know we got people from all over the place that are going to be here either on the webinar or watching it later. And just so you know, we do record these and we send them out within a week to everybody. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to take Doug through a series of questions and see if we can get to the core of what does this look like and how can this be utilized in your business today. But before I start, I'd like to do a poll question, Doug, for so we know who's on here, so we can kind of tailor some of our conversation. Does that sound okay?
Sounds great.
All right, so let me do this, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. And once again, your chats in the chat, if you're chatting to us, those are not anonymous, but the polls are anonymous. So if you could answer the poll to your best ability, and those are anonymous, nobody's going to see what your answer is. And then I always share the polls so that you know exactly what's happening. All right, so the answers are, what is your role at your school? Are you the owner, the instructor, administrator, or other? In fact, if you don't even have a school yet, maybe you mark down other and be ready to learn a lot today about how you might be able to set up your business. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, share the results. All right, we got 44% of the people on Doug are owners. We got 11% are instructors, 22% administrators, and 22% other. And a lot of times those are people that are looking at and interested in starting a school. So this is a great place. If you're going to lay a foundation for starting a school, this might be one of the things that we want to look at. So, Doug, are you ready? Let's jump in.
I'm ready.
All right. Doug, you've done big organizations. And so I wanted to think about today, I'm thinking, the people who we deal with who are running their own schools, they have aspirations of being a certain size. And they all kind of start out pretty similar. They're usually pretty small, maybe even a one-person shop, two-person, three-person. And then they really start to hit their stride. And so I'm hoping we can talk across all kind of those segments and how that might apply. But, what integration do you recommend for a real estate school to use to connect their site directly with Dearborn resources? Because what we have is like we have like the RE Campus platform, right, for the digitally delivered courses, asynchronous courses online. You know, what do you recommend, right, to streamline student access? Because I think maybe what you might touch on is it's all about getting your students to the resources they need as simply, as quickly, and as fast as possible. What do you think? What do you recommend as the for these people?
Absolutely. Yeah, and in education for a long time, we've been talking about this concept of an integrated student experience, right? And so when we think about that, we think about, learners getting to their resources quickly and without friction. And so as you think about how you might integrate your RE Campus portal with your website, right, you want to make sure that your RE Campus portal is going to reflect your branding and your identity of your school. So that feels pretty seamless moving from the one to the other. And whether you're thinking about, current students who are coming back to access their learning resources or prospective students who you're trying to get to enroll and get into your courses, you want to make sure that you have that, link from your website directly to that portal. And the best way to do that is in terms of how you frame that on your website, is with a call to action. So as opposed to, click portal here, think about start learning or access resources or browse courses or those types of call to action words, which will lead prospective students and also be really clear to your current students. And then if you have that integrated experience where your portal has your consistent branding, it has all your same consistent information, your contact info, and all those things that you can customize in the portal, right? Then they're in that same sort of branded experience and they're going to feel like it's pretty seamless.
Got it. All right. So we're talking about really RE Campus. We're talking about taking our schools, their students, and taking them from a resource that the school has, like their website, like their information page, like all of those sort of tools, even emails. I mean, right? I mean, you could drop a link right in there and link it right to where the student needs to be. Is that, I
Mhm.
mean, this is really what you're talking about is making it one click easy.
That's exactly right.
Got it. And people should know that they we do support RE Campus for our partners. We're tech support. Right. So if students have a problem when they're inside a course, they call our tech support. That's part of the service we provide with that online platform. And and I can tell you, like navigating to the resource they need is the number one call driver. And I know that our schools, right, lots of times it's one person, two person, three person, operation. Uh, Eliminating those call drivers is important. And so this, like you're talking about, is a tool I would imagine that is eliminates call drivers, right? I mean, because you take them right to what they need.
Exactly. It also eliminates any sort of friction they might have in that browsing process, right? The research shows, you're 35% more likely to enroll in something, right? If you can sort of see what it is and if you have that immediate option to get access right away, as opposed to, filling out an interest form or making some sort of other request. So that's also really important.
Yeah, get him into the purchase process, get him into the experience as fast and quick as possible.
Mhm.
All right. What any other things we should think about for streamlining student access?
Yeah, I think that's, the really good advice if you're a small, more emerging school. If you're a much larger school, you're much more established and you want to explore additional integrations, there are additional integrations you can do technically with RE Campus and our sites. And so that's an option for larger schools. Um,
Like what? Let's give people a glimpse. I mean, like what would we be looking at for like a larger integration?
We have single sign-on options. We have options to sort of help pass seamlessly from any of your other online experiences to your RE Campus site. So that looks pretty consistent and it feels like it's part of the ecosystem as
Got it.
opposed to being something else that sits outside.
Got it. And these are, pretty sophisticated solutions, and generally there's a cost behind it. And so, but if your business is sophisticated enough, you can continue to grow with RE Campus, and we can help you organize how, right, that sophisticated linking happens either through single sign-on
Mhm.
or other passing of information with an API back to any system that you have that you're managing student records and content and that kind of thing too.
Yes.
And we do that. We do help out and we do those services for some of our RE campus partners right now. Okay. Can you provide kind of a critical example of how a school owner instructor would leverage maybe some of their outside resources in order to drive business or interest? I'm thinking about like LinkedIn profile, like showcasing as opposed to posting on a school's official company page. I gotta tell you, this is a super interesting piece to how we can tying platforms together in order to drive business. This is not so much the administrative side of the business now. Now we're really talking about sales. I had a very interesting meeting with a person who is world renowned and has a company world renowned. And I tried to Google search the company, and they don't even have a website. He runs everything off of LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait a second, how can you not? But he's got almost 1.5 million words of articles and white papers that he's written, and he drives everything off of LinkedIn. So I'm super excited to understand, like, can you provide an example of how a school owner instructor would leverage their LinkedIn profile to showcase, kind of their partnership and really how to drive more business to their school?
Yes. So with LinkedIn, the thing that it's really important to keep in mind is there's so much power in the personal profile as opposed to the company profile. So you really need sort of both components in order to drive that sort of traffic and make sure that you're showing up in the right places in LinkedIn and folks can find you. The way to think about it is the personal is for thought leadership and networking. If you think about when you go to LinkedIn, a lot of times what you're seeing and what's coming up on top are people's thought leadership posts. They're sharing posts from other thought leaders or they're sharing news on a personal context. That gets a lot more traffic. However, you really kind of need both, right? Because you still need your company page to establish your legitimacy, your presence there, to show that you're a full business, right? And you want whatever you have on your company page to be super consistent with everything else you have, with what you have on your website, with what you're putting in your portal. Making sure all of those things are consistent and match is really key to making sure that you're going to show up in search results consistently.
Sure.
So we always say NAP, name, address, phone number, right? But those should be the same across all things. And then, once you sort of have that and you have that foundational presence, it's great to, highlight the partnership. Either sometimes people do it in their headline on LinkedIn. They might say they're a Dearborn real estate education partner. That brings a lot of, clout and legitimacy. And then they might want to check into your profile, see what you've been posting. Certainly, you should put that as part of maybe your about me or somewhere in that bio, because that will show up in search results. And then the thing about it is you have to sort of post on a regular basis on LinkedIn, right? And that will drive traffic. Not every day, certainly, but general rule is once a week or once every 2 weeks or so. And that consistency, you'll start to show up more and more in people's feeds. And it can be simple things like sharing insights that maybe you get on the Dearborn LinkedIn page, or other colleagues or other thought leaders that you're following in the real estate education space that you think some of their thoughts are interesting. You can share that, and just by doing that simple thing, you're going to start to show up in people's feeds.
So let me ask a question. So, let me ask a question. Then Horace, I'm going to get to your question after this. Okay. So Horace has a chat question. We'll get to that next. So you're saying that our clients should promote their Dearborn relationship, right, for RE Campus or their books. Because Dearborn, we are regularly putting out articles on LinkedIn. This sounds a little bit like this is self-serving for us, like, oh, hey, you should really link to Dearborn. It'll help. It helps us. How does it help? I'm trying. I mean, I think How does it help our client to link with us? How I mean, tell me, how does it help?
Yeah, it adds value because first of all, just showcasing the partnership and showing that you have partnered with
Oh,
with a large and renowned
mhm.
education partner, I think is really important. And it's about balance, right? Certainly that you could share articles from Dearborn and have that, but you want other pieces too, and you want
Yeah,
pieces that feel to folks not commercial as well. So it's about having some variety and some balance in what you're sharing and posting.
got
Um,
it. Yeah, so I mean, I find myself when I find people that I resonate with and I like their message, I'm free to reshare theirs. And it's funny how many comments I get back to me about something I shared. And so, lots of times people struggle with content. How do I want to, literally, I bet, and people, I love it to see in the chat. If you're sitting out there like, I'm afraid to let the genie out of the bottle because then I have to feel like I got to keep feeding the genie. If I do one thing and then I never show up again, people, so having partners or people that you regularly share actually helps to add to your posting and your visibility. Don't click on something you think you don't believe in. Don't share something, right? But I think one of the things is we purposely put out stuff on LinkedIn and expect to help our partners actually be able to link and have kind of consistent content in order to get out there. So whoever it is you are associated with, sharing what you believe in doesn't really hurt you as long as you do it right, right?
that's right.
Yeah. In fact, it can help you because it helps you with the perception of content. All right, let's do this. Let's go to Horace's question. Did you see it? So if we have, say, a Lean Worlds site, it can be linked to RE Campus.
It's possible. I have to double check on Learn World specifically,
Okay.
um, but
I'm not familiar
it's
with that either.
possible.
Yeah. And so yeah, there's a way where you can deep link to RE Campus for sure. Deep linking meaning into the point where people can purchase right at the cart if it's about purchasing experience. And I'm not familiar with Lean Worlds either, but that is something that we can obviously discuss. And deep linking is a fact that I think a lot of people do already. A lot of our wholesale clients, they have an entire website. They have all their products on it. It's all environment. And when the purchaser, the student wants to enroll and they hit purchase, it just takes them right into the RE Campus cart
Mhm.
and allows them to purchase in the RE Campus cart. Does the whole transaction, sends them an email, tell them that they have just created an account and they've just uh, they get a receipt for the course, they get all that kind of stuff, and login information. So yes, you can do that, Horace. But if it's deeper than that, you're going to get an opportunity to be able to reach out to us afterwards, Horace, and you can continue the conversation in our Dearborn forum. So, all right, let's do this. Let's go on to the next question.
Okay.
Uh, for a small real estate school, with a limited budget. And when I mean small, I mean, the revenues of, a couple hundred grand, maybe 100 grand. What's the single most effective low effort action they can take to leverage tools that are already available to them out there for free?
hmm Yeah, well, the great news here is you don't need a big budget or a lot of fancy tools, right? Just, I would say, smart focus. So the single most effective thing you can do is to set up your business profile on Google. So every business that is listed on Google has been claimed for the most part by the business. You can do that pretty easily if you haven't claimed your business. I think you just go to google.com/business You sign in with your Google account, and then you say, here's my business if you haven't claimed it. There's usually a verification process so they can make sure you are who you say you are.
Legitimate, yeah.
They'll call you, or you have to send a postcard type of thing. And then once you're verified, it shows you as a real, legitimate, verified business. And from there, you can put in all your same consistent information. Remember NAP again, name, address, phone number. In your About Me, you can include keywords, your real estate school, where you're located, what kind of students you attract, those types of things, because those keywords will start to show up in searches
Oh
once you
yeah,
have your business.
yeah.
And then
Keep going, keep going. I'm sorry.
And then the other really, really effective thing that really promotes traffic and makes sure that you're not going to be, kind of hidden in the corner of the web somewhere is reviews. Once you have your business plan, you can start taking reviews. And that's why a lot of businesses actually ask you to review them, right? Because the more reviews you have, the more you're going to start showing up in traffic. So if you claim that and you've sort of set up your presence, you have a nice logo or photo of your business, all those things that will look very legitimate, then you can start to take those reviews and you can start to ask people to leave a review if you think they've had a good experience. And that will just, every time that happens, that will bump you up in terms of traffic.
Yeah, so I can't kind of stress enough kind of what Doug just laid out there. So I think everybody knows that I also run Kaplan Real Estate Education, national educator, does a lot of national marketing, does a lot of, broadcast emailing, paid search online, all those kind of things. And I can tell you, our Dearborn partners, this is like the this is like the tool to end all tools to compete with big, large national brands that spend a ton of money on digital paid search and all that kind of stuff. Because the way search engines work now, especially with the AI overview, right? GEO, generative overview, the whole marketing, local wins.
Mhm.
And so when you're a big national educator, you're not local. And how what I'm finding our most successful schools are marketing and capitalizing is they're marketing on their local market. They are, and at the core of it are the Google reviews. They actively pursue them. They've established their Google review. They actively pursue them, and they'll have, we have some of our partners, they'll have, 5,000 reviews local with a beautiful rating on it. They kill in the search. They kill in AI overview. Google, it's all about making money. They little magic, but those local ratings are powerful. And it's super hard to compete as a big outside because I don't have a local operation there, right? And so hard to get local reviews.
Mhm.
Yeah, what a great way to inoculate yourself and really, and how much does it cost for your Google to set up your Google review?
It's free,
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, how great is that? So
right?
I would just, I'd love a little, if you're in the chat, could somebody let us know if you've been able to be successful with your Google reviews locally? Somebody say, yeah, I'm all over it. I would usually have a poll question for this, but we didn't do a poll question. But the poll question would be, yes, I have, because it'd be anonymous. But you know what, in the chat, people see your name. But if you said, gosh darn it, I need to get on it, I'd love to know if anybody's really killing it in the Google reviews local, because I know that I know 24 of our biggest partners that do this really, really well. Really well. All right. Yes, is that the place that you put testimonials instead of on the website? Yeah, your reviews go on in Google. And so when somebody looks for your business, wants to understand who you are, your Google reviews come up in that search.
Hmm.
Yeah. What else? Anything else on that? Any other tips or leverage that you think for people on the free Google reviews?
I'd say just practice basic, SEO, sales engine optimization, hygiene. Really think about your keywords, right? And if you're thinking about a local audience, what are they going to search, right? Real estate school near me, become a realtor, those types of things. And you just want to make sure those are going to be in your about me. So when that comes up, it'll ping your site first, especially if you're close in proximity to them. And a lot of times it will show them the nearest results. So make
Yeah,
sure.
geolocation, right? I mean,
Yes. So I live in Seattle. If I were to do that, it would show me first, things closest to where I live. So make sure your address is current.
yeah, make sure your address is correct, right? So that'll geolocate you. Yeah, and local wins in local searches. I mean, and you know what? I granted you're gonna have to figure out another strategy. If you're out in the middle of nowhere in your business and you're all online, how do you compete, right? Because you have to be able to establish a real kind of geolocation. Uh, but if you're in the heart of a large metropolitan area, if you're in the heart of a growing suburb that has 2 million people in it, superstar, action for you to set up in order to drive business to you. All right, so with that, if everybody says, okay, so we talked about some free, we talked about LinkedIn profile, another free thing, right? We've talked about everything free. If I wanted to spend money though, because believe me, we spend a lot of money, digital marketing, search paid terms, all this kind of stuff, a lot of money. Um, and we have an ROI that we look for. Like if we spend $1, right? How much money do we want to make back? And so what key metrics, if somebody's going to spend the money on some real marketing, that's going to drive people to all these platforms that you've connected now, right? So they come to the website's connected to Dearborn for online courses. It's connected to an easy purchasing process for their students to buy their in-person education or live online education, right? What kind of a return on that investment, Doug, if you're running the business, what do you look for? What kind of
Mhm.
ROI?
I would be looking for an increase in my conversion rate, right? And when we think about conversion rates, we're thinking about someone who's interested, they're a potential student, to converting to be a actual student where they, purchased a course or purchased a book or some material,
Sure.
right? And there's a lot of really simple ways you can sort of increase that conversion rate. Conversion rates usually are pretty small. So even a small incremental increase in that can sometimes even double your revenue. Google reports that when people go through those free steps, right, they often will increase their conversion rates from like 2 to 4%. Seems like a small increase, right? But that's double what
Double.
was doing before,
So
right?
you just said an interesting number, 2 to 4%. That is kind of a pretty typical conversion rate range for large broadcast, email, ads, that kind of a thing, right? And And Doug, I'm old enough to know what doing only paper direct mail marketing, was the only option back in the day. Uh, Same conversion rate. Isn't that
Hmm.
interesting?
It is interesting, right? It doesn't necessarily change people's perception of the process, right?
Right? Yeah, but it's how are you reaching them, right? So first is how do you get their attention, and then how do you convert? All right, so keep going. I know there's more metrics than conversion rates.
Yeah, yeah, and companies spend millions of dollars, right, on expensive tools and all these other things to try and measure that. But one really simple thing, and it still oftentimes is the most reliable thing, even for huge companies, right, is to ask people what's working the best and to go through the process yourself every once in a while. So, as a best practice, we would say Google yourself, right? Go to LinkedIn and see if I search for the things that I think would bring up a profile like mine, does it do that, right? And then it's still the most valuable thing to ask the people who have gone through that conversion process. Even these huge companies, you still see those things at the bottom of emails, right? Um, how did you hear about us, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right, right, right.
And that gives you, I think, a pretty simple measurement there in terms of, you know, how effective is all of this? And it's a little bit more simple, a little bit more rudimentary. It's not as refined as say the more expensive tools, but I think it does the job. And the other big met, oh, please.
Oh, let me just finish it and then come. Let's go on to your another big metric. Okay, so um, I'm just going to share a little bit with people. So we just went through a large A/B testing. So does everybody understand what A/B testing is? Like it's on a website, and half the people who come to this page on the website are going to be presented with a page that looks like this, and the other half are going to be presented with a page that looks like this. And when we test and say which one is better, and it's really all about conversion. And I can just tell you, there was a cheer and a roar that went up in the halls of Kaplan marketing for because we tested, and the new one went up 21% increase from the old page. So a 21% increase so from like 1.7 to 1.9, and I was like, I think it was like up to like 2% conversion rate. So like you said, it's a very small amount. But over the life of that website, it turns into real money at the end of the day. Because if a conversion has an average order value of $300 or $400, all of a sudden it starts to stack up that little tiny percentage piece. And I think that's what we're looking for in ROI here is what are those pieces, right? What should we be measuring? What should we be looking for? And I can tell you, like I said, the marketing team was, pats on the back, super excited about it. 21%, but really just took a couple teeny tiny fractions of a decimal point up. All right, what's the big metric that you think?
I mean, the ultimate metric, right, is revenue increase, right? You want to see that hit your bottom line, right? So ultimately, but it's about sort of those little incremental metrics along the way to get to that. And that's what's going to help you know where to focus, right? We say ROI here, but when we think about all these tools that are free, right, that's really an investment in time. So I like to say ROE and, return on effort, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you can start to measure some of those things, then you know where you might want to double down and spend your time most effectively, getting the reviews, what kind of posts are attracting people, and that type of thing. The other big one we're always hearing about that's a really good measurement and a very simple one is NPS or Net Promoter Score, right? That's something you can ask your returning students or anyone who's purchased from you, and it's a simple question: would you recommend us to somebody else? Right? And if it's a very simple metric, but it gives you a really good sense of how all of those materials are playing together and how that's feeding into the larger metric, which is the bottom line.
NPS is an interesting thing, that Net Promoter Score. Um, I kind of wrestle with that one because because it really depends on how you ask, and it really depends on when you ask somebody for how it's going. Like, oh, I just bought my course. Well, how was your experience? Oh, it was fantastic. And then they're halfway through the education, and you ask them again, they're like, it's okay. I I couldn't get to something. I had to call, customer support. And then you get to the end, right? And they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm excited again. And then you ask them like in our business, there's licensing education. You ask them after that, after they take their licensing exam. And man, if they fail their exam, boy, you should see your NPS score, So there's some subjective pieces to it. So, but I think what I hear from you is, ask your customers how you're doing.
Yeah.
And and really, it's the age-old thing. Would they promote you? Would they tell their friends, family, coworkers, here's where you got to go? Because that kind of marketing, what's the return on that investment? Right? I mean, this could be, like special, like oh, we're going to reduce your cost by 1,000%.
Hmm.
What did it really cost you? We're going to increase by your ROI by 1,000%. What does that cost you? Word of mouth is still the greatest marketing return today, right? Still is. And so,
Hmm.
but the key that I've come to grips with is, as long as you consistently ask at the same time, and you consistently ask the same questions, you can see the trend of how you're doing when you're making improvements. And obviously, whenever you ask your customers, they give you feedback, right? And they tell you what's going right or what's going wrong. So,
Hmm.
so an NPS score can be all these different things, but for you, it's really just about improving it everywhere. So every one of those places,
That's
and
right.
and and that is once again, and I'll get off my little box here, but when I started in this business 24 years ago, 23 years, 24, coming up on 24 years ago. I learned from two very smart people who had a school just like our clients here on the phone. And they was purchased by Kaplan. Unbeknownst to me, when I started, I thought I was starting at the greatest school in the world. And then I said, who's Kaplan? They had just purchased it. But two very smart guys. And those smart guys said, you know what? It's really pretty easy business. And I said, what do you mean it's an easy business? You have 90%, 90% market share in licensing for four different industries: real estate, appraisal, insurance, and contractors education. And they looked at me square in the eye and said, well, it's really pretty simple. You listen to your customers and you give them what they want and then measure it. And so there's the key. That's I love the NPS as a way to measure, am I doing the right thing by our customers? All right. Any other ROIs that we should talk about? Any other key metrics? Those are probably the lowest hanging.
I think those are the biggest ones, and then to your point, right, you can get smarter and smarter and smarter with them over time. Depending on what kind of information you get back and how you want to use that, right, you can start to measure more things. But I think the biggest piece of advice there is just start really simple with the most foundational ones, and you can kind of refine from there.
Yeah, right on. All right, so we're getting down near the end, and so I want to just say, you're a guy who has worked in education and cross platforms and really organizing at a kind of a big, very macro level, and leveraging kind of the things that work across multiple platforms. So if you were to say, all right, here are three things that any school is going to need to work. You're going to need these three things, these three takeaways from today's sessions. What would they be? What would you say the three key takeaways from today?
I'd say if I really center myself in the prospective student experience, right, and so I'll go in sort of order.
Yeah.
The first is the smart SEO, right? Smart search engine optimization. So that's the maximizing your presence, just doing the foundational things in Google, claiming your business, driving your reviews, and just having that foundational presence there. So that's not going to require a lot of effort or a whole lot of investment, but that is going to give you the foundational piece that you'll need no matter what you do next, right? I'd say the second big takeaway is remembering the power of personalization and personal promotion, right? It's a striking number. It's 5 times higher view rate on a personal post in LinkedIn than a company post, right? So remember the power of your personal posts and what you can do there from a networking perspective, how you're driving, sharing testimonials, sharing thought pieces, and how you're ultimately driving traffic to your web presence, right?
Yes.
And then once you're in that web presence and I get to your website or I get to your company LinkedIn page or wherever I'm supposed to end up for your experience, that I have that easy, frictionless, integrated student experience where I can go and I can see what you have available right away. I can browse, I can shop. And as I do that, right, it feels like I'm in an ecosystem of yours. And then once I purchase, right, I have, I can see right away that I'm getting access to things and I'm living within that ecosystem as a student.
Perfect. Fabulous. 3 solid points. Doug, I want to say thank you for being here today and thank you for sharing. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your knowledge. Everybody, go out there, claim your world, grab your spot in the Google reviews, leverage the free, and leverage the platforms that work really well, like LinkedIn. Like I said, 5 times, you're 5 times more likely if it's a personal post as opposed to your company post, which tells me, what am I doing? We spend a lot of money on LinkedIn with our company stuff, and we should be spending more stuff with our personal stuff. So for those of you who have your own business and it's really you all the way around, that's a great tip. Doug, thank you very much. Everybody, thank you for joining our Dearborn webinar today. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this back up, and you guys, love to hear from you. if you want to get to know us or follow us, here's our LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Allow you to once again have access to content that you can share and link to and push. And once again, put yourself out there and drive your business. All right. Once again, Doug, thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Have a great day.